Are you using your spirituality as an escape? Your meditation, your journaling, even your yoga practice could be nothing more than a high vibration coping mechanism that keeps you from unleashing your full potential. This used to be me. For several years after leaving my job at Google, I was just living in my truck top camper, desperately seeking something that felt like anything akin to spiritual freedom. I was meditating for 2+ hours a day, but always feeling like I wasn't living up to my potential, like I hadn't found the thing that was meant for me. And I was mad at my spiritual team and at God for not showing me my path or my purpose. So if you can resonate with any part of that, then today's video might have a couple of golden nuggets for you. We're going to dive into how to tell whether you're using your spiritual practice as an escape from discomfort or as some kind of a negative coping pattern, or to know where your path really is at. Hey, I'm John Ray with Musing Wizard, and on this channel, we unpack what actually works when it comes to law of attraction, reality transurfing, spiritual alchemy, and the teachings of Neville Goddard. I've been exploring and putting these concepts, into some kind of practice for over 20 years, and now we get to unpack and use them together as a community. You've probably heard the term spiritual one-upmanship. Essentially it's trying to appear more enlightened or blessed or knowledgeable than the next person. But it isn't really a practice exclusive to any religion or spiritual system. It's just kind of this ego thing that humans tend to do. And, maybe if you envision a person who, always has to lead with some kind of spiritual phrase as that extension of their ego personality. You've probably seen a pastor or a churchgoer who can't seem to have a conversation without working in some kind of a popular church phrase or a Bible verse, or maybe it's the would-be yogi who speaks in exaggerated, Zen voice at all times, refusing to break that eye contact. Those people who just keep staring you down, do not want to blink or break eye contact, or maybe it's the meditator who only wants to show off how enlightened they are, and so they're constantly talking about their meditation practice or all of the spiritual things that they're doing and how all of these things would solve your problems if you would just live life the way that they live. Well, these practices, whatever spiritual practice you have, can oftentimes become a type of mental masturbation that allows someone to feel like they're making progress without ever activating the physical somatic experience or actually manifesting any real or tangible outcomes. Have you ever wondered why so many people who are, supposedly spiritual people just seem like they're always desperately reaching for something? We've all met that type of people. And really what we're talking about in this video is thinking versus feeling. Too many people are stuck inside spiritual concepts without any sense of how to actually integrate those concepts into their lives. They're all talk with no real ability to take the right actions is what it comes down to. And you'll get far more from your meditation or your journaling or whatever your practice is when you learn to feel your feelings completely as you sit in silence. Even if those feelings are uncomfortable, you want to make sure that you're having a somatic experience and integrating the intellectual part of your spiritual process into your quantum body. And when you can actually find comfort with your own discomfort, you'll be able to start activating real change in your life. Enlightenment and productivity will not just be these kind of mystical concepts, but you'll actually have an integrative feeling of what that means to put it into action in your day-to-day life. You can have things like quote unquote enlightenment without having to project your beliefs onto others. I would say that if you need other people to believe what you believe, that probably you're not as enlightened as you think. And once you can get to this place where you can allow other people to have their experience and trust that it's okay for you to have whatever experience you're having, then all kinds of new opportunities become available to you. It really comes down to your ability to feel through and pay attention to the somatics in your body. And that's paying attention to the somatics in your body when other people are projecting onto you or when you're projecting onto them. Regardless, there's a feeling state. It's a subtle state, but it's this subtle energy, emotional state that once we learn how to pay attention to it, all kinds of interesting things start to happen in our lives. When you first start to your meditation journey, maybe you're watching a YouTube video and it's teaching you how to meditate. A lot of times what you're probably, sitting and thinking about is kind of the intellectual process of it. Maybe you do some conscious breathing in, breathe out. And that's a great start to begin to tune your subtle energies. The more that we can watch our breath, the more that we unlock the subtle nature of that energetic flow. But it can be easy to use that to put yourself into what I call a bliss bubble. And a bliss bubble is when you feel really great while you're doing the process, but then the second that you enter real life again, you're frustrated again because you've kind of separated those two things. You're not integrating your process into your actual life. And when you just use meditation to get into a bliss bubble, it actually distances you from the real energetic and emotional work that needs to be done or that can be done in a meditative state. You see this often with people who, want you to move to Bali and meditate all day long in order to live your best life, or maybe that's what they did. And that's fine. That works very well for some people. But the problem is that if you put those people into the real world, often they're unable to cope with the actual stressors of life. And yes, there's value in getting away from all the noise and learning what your true vibration actually feels like, learning what your true inner voice is, learning to listen to that. But seeking bliss for the sake of bliss is often a trap that prevents you from being able to walk through lion's dens successfully. When most people are seeking bliss, what they're really reaching for is a kind of competence. They want to be able to find a place of strength in any situation, not just ones that they've perfectly manicured. When you go on vacation, it's easy to feel like a Zen master, especially when you're at these retreats where everybody has the same intention. But bringing that Zen mastery into your day-to-day life is where the real mastery comes on board. And when you feel into your body and notice where and how energy flows through your nervous system, in order to do that, you have to be immersed in the present moment, and you start the process of being able to transmute any situation into one that you can start to find alignment with. And that's the real power is knowing that no matter what happens, you're going to be able to transmute those energies into something that serves you. And that's being at cause over your life. When meditation is a mental exercise, you're really just thinking about being in the present moment because you're oftentimes caught up in the actual thinking process. And that means, giving the emotions and energies within you kind of these compartmentalized labels. So the way that it used to show up for me is I would think my emotions and I would actually see them as bubbles with labels on them, but I wasn't having an actual energetic or somatic experience with them, and as you're growing in awareness, that can be a perfectly normal first step in learning to be aware of that subtle energy. It may manifest itself visually in your mind first, but the next step is actually embracing and integrating those messages as emotional energy rather than thought interpretation. It's just layers of interpretation. And are you interpreting it with your brain or the rest of your bodily nervous system? So in order to move thoughts down into your body, you do this by moving from the head, taking your focus off of your thoughts and identifying those same thoughts as energy down in your body. And there's a big difference in these two interpretations of energy. I discovered this essentially because I was miserable. I was suffering from a kind of existential desperation that left me always feeling empty inside, really. And if I had to boil everything down to the most actionable and useful piece of advice that I learned during that, dark shadow moment in my life, it would be to learn how to actually feel your feelings somatically in every single moment, meaning you're feeling the sensation of it in your body. Because when you can do this, life ends up doing the energy work for you. You don't have to intellectually decide where the energy needs to move in your body. Life will just trigger you in the right way, and then you feel that, have an experience of what life gives you, and that clears the energy in the right way. You don't want to treat your feelings like something that you have to get through before you can get to the good stuff. This isn't about like going and doing all the energy work and then all of a sudden you're perfect. What you want to really allow yourself the space for is to have your feelings as you have them. And there's some backlog because oftentimes we're not letting ourselves have our feelings. And so then we bypass moments where something's uncomfortable. A lot of times we'll be like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. And that's you kind of bypassing the moment where there was an opportunity to transmute the energies of that. And when you bypass a moment in your life, and we've all done it many times in the past, that energy is now trapped in our system because it didn't get to flow all the way through since we didn't fully experience it. And so it will come to the surface in the future as a mirror manifestation from life that is triggering the same type of thing until we're willing to experience it fully. And oftentimes we can get into a meditation practice or whatever our spiritual practice is, and it's all good stuff. And we have this idea that, oh, I'm a spiritual person now, because we can get to this place of such absolute bliss, but then as soon as we step into quote unquote real world tasks, we get thrown off and we wonder what happened. And experimenting and kind of pedaling around is all good stuff. Even when something doesn't immediately appear to be beneficial, we can start to interpret everything as being necessary, everything being in service to us, because everything is an upgrade waiting to be integrated. Absolutely everything in your life is showing you what emotional energy is ready for release. It's showing you where you bypassed energy in the past, and now that energy is coming up to the surface again, saying, okay, are you willing to experience it this time? And if you are, then that energy is ready to be transmuted back into creative potential. I realized during one of the most pivotal moments in my life that I had spent my life really cut off from my feelings. I was aware of my feelings as that intellectual label, but I had never really allowed myself to fully experience them as sensation in my body. And, I had recently left a job at Google because really the role was no longer satisfying for me. It no longer resonated with my passion and the spiritual awakening that I was having. And so I left that high-paying job with benefits, those golden handcuffs, to go live in the middle of nowhere. I wandered around aimlessly for a while, living in my truck top camper, tending beehives and meditating. And as I traveled in that camper, I had a revelation. I had been using meditation as a mental exercise and had lost touch with the God-given ability to feel and use my emotions as not only guidance, but as transmutational alchemy work. I could experience my emotions mentally and see them mentally, but I wasn't able to feel or connect with them in my body. And because of this, I didn't even realize that, the reason that I wanted to escape from the world and live on a large piece of land, by myself was because I had so much discomfort in my body, that I hadn't felt through, and I didn't want anybody to trigger that discomfort. And so I had basically built this like walled garden where nobody would ever have to trigger me. And in doing that, what I had become was a control freak. I wanted to reach a new tier of success, but I didn't want to have to experience any of the negative emotions that new, bigger experiences would ultimately trigger within me, even if temporary. Because all bigger experiences have a certain level of both uncertainty and unknowns. And these unknowns, they're temporarily uncomfortable. But if I'm willing to experience the unknowns, that uncertainty, then it's easy for me to use energy practices, mantras, bliss bubble meditation. Like I can escape that discomfort using different practices like that. And I can convince myself that that's the way to get what I want, when actually life was giving me that temporary discomfort as an opportunity to feel through and transmute that energy into the new flavor of life that I would need to hold, the new state that I would need to hold in order to have success in those bigger games, And for me, I was so willing to experience uncomfortable feelings that I'd lost the ability to do it. And maybe you're like that, maybe you're thinking your feelings rather than feeling them the way that I was. And if you've ever gone to the gym, you know that those moments of experiencing and feeling through temporary discomfort are where the growth happens a lot of the times. Before you can get stronger, you have to break muscle down so that it grows back bigger and better. If you're unwilling to experience that temporary pain, then you're not going to get very far with any, form of physical fitness. And so to hit your physical fitness goals, you learn to recognize those growth moments, feel through the temporary discomfort, and find alignment with the next level of progress. And the same applies to spiritual fitness. Feeling through temporary discomfort is, I guess it's the key to tackling any challenge that might get thrown at you. And as you do this kind of alchemy process of feeling your feelings and do that more and more, you will start to level up and get stronger. You'll be able to hold states of flow longer. You'll be able to hold states of confidence longer. The temporary discomfort is no longer as pronounced in your experience. Like, it's not as frustrating once you do this work. And you can find comfort in the fact that, as discomfort comes up or as something feels frustrating or as you get triggered by a new challenge, recognizing that that's a part of the expansion process can help soften that a little bit and allow you to hold a tight container for yourself where you can feel your feelings. And then as you feel your feelings, you end up expanding. Then you face your next challenge, you feel your feelings around that, and then you expand. And this is how you're able to kind of eat the elephant one bite at a time and more accomplish larger and larger challenges. And what I was doing in the camper was hiding away and refusing to feel the discomfort that comes with choosing a bigger game. And so in order to not have to feel discomfort, I started choosing really small games. I was like, oh, I don't need material possessions. I don't need all of these things. And of course, that can be a choice made from a bigger game perspective. You could be doing that to raise the consciousness of the planet. But the reason that I was doing it is because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable if I chose to choose a bigger game. It's easy to feel good when you're playing a very small game, and that's what I was doing. And I was having that bliss bubble experience, and so I was tricking myself into thinking that I was becoming a spiritual person. But it's a lot harder when you choose to play a very large game. There are a lot of people that are like me, like I was in the camper, who are hiding in jungles and retreat centers and are refusing to play a bigger game. But the ability to feel through the big emotions that come with larger and larger games is a healthy process that will fortify you and keep you full of energy as you make bigger moves. Like, if you're feeling exhausted, if you're feeling like you don't know your purpose, if you're feeling frustrated that you don't know what your next move is, it's likely that there is something in your system that's ready to release, and you release it by getting really honest with yourself and feeling through the discomfort of it. Research shows that the ability to feel emotions reduces inflammation, it protects your immune system, and it makes you less susceptible to disease. Feeling and experiencing your feelings helps you to know yourself. You learn to accept your feelings as they come without being beholden to them. And when that happens, people can't use emotional tactics to manipulate you. You learn that you don't have to make your feelings mean something. They're just a natural part of life, and they're going to ebb and flow. And you can own whatever feelings you're having without feeling guilty about them or without feeling uncomfortable about your own discomfort. And validating your feelings in this way by allowing them to be within you without judgment, it builds self-confidence. It makes you a better communicator, and it makes each of us stronger, smarter, and better able to connect with others. So if you have a meditation practice or are thinking about starting one, just know that there's great value in showing up for yourself in this way, and to make somatics, like feeling the sensation in your body, a big part of how you work or incorporate those practices. If you can do it with the perspective of feeling into the present moment rather than thinking the present moment, sitting in a room of stillness is always going to eventually uncover the feelings that are ready to be seen if you're open to experiencing them. And once you know this, you'll recognize that all of the insight that you could ever need is already inside of you, and it lives in that trapped trauma that's ready to release back into creative potential. And once it's released back into creative potential, then the power of your satellite dish that is pulling data from the simulation is going to become more potent and stronger and more clear. And, if you've tried meditation and can't seem to stop thinking thoughts, like you just keep having chatter in your mind, it's likely because you've not activated your body consciousness in a vivid way. Thoughts are the manifestation of energy that we are not experiencing in our body, because true knowing is like a body sensation. Like you just know what to do. You almost are ready to take action before you even think about what the plan is. And that's that body consciousness coming online in a big way. And once you learn how to move your thinking mind down into your body, and you do that by just saying, where do I feel this thought in my body? And then stealing your attention there, there are no longer any thoughts. Once you are actively tuned into your body consciousness in that way, there's only the awareness of sensation and the knowingness that by feeling through that sensation, that energy is ready to shift and release. And it was this level of clarity and intuition that, in a small way, led to me leaving Google for ultimately what became a better life. Even though I was just barely beginning to tap into my greater body consciousness at the time, if I had been caught up in my logic brain or listening to my friends and family, there were plenty of good reasons to stay for the security and the career advancement that working at Google provided, but I wasn't where I am now. Like I didn't have as strong a sense of my body awareness of my quantum field. I didn't even really have a lot of language around my spiritual journey, but even back then, I knew to trust my gut. Like that was something that had always served me really well. And so I made one of the biggest decisions of my life based on a feeling, on a knowingness. And it wasn't a fleeting feeling. Like knowingness isn't fleeting. The feelings that we're talking about aren't the ones that are rooted in fear or biological urge. What I'm talking about is a deeply rooted feeling that I could feel, in my entire beingness. And, it's a deeply rooted feeling that I would have missed had I not done at least some of the emotional and energetic work to strengthen that level of clarity in my body and in my field. And when you can connect with your feelings, in this way as sensation versus experiencing them as intellectual ideas, really the only thing standing between you and the life of your dreams is going to be your own creativity. Because once you can actively feel discomfort, transmute it into creative potential, and then grow your dreams from there, and then repeat that process over and over again, you're golden. You can create whatever you want. You know, using meditation for mental reps can improve cognition, and help to lower your stress. But you severely limit the impact it can have on your life if you never bring it below the neck. You're capping your potentially entirely if you use meditation as some vain attempt to avoid your feelings or to keep them all the way in check by constantly going into that bliss bubble. And if you think meditation is about creating that bliss bubble and holding that bliss bubble all the time, creating it in a way where you never have to do anything uncomfortable, you're also going to miss a big part of life, because choosing to play big games and then feeling your feelings as sensation in the body keeps you in the flow of I am consciousness. It puts you in the present moment instead of in this kind of imagined future state. And while those future states can be useful, they're useful for inspiring a present moment feeling in the body. And in the present moment, which of course is where your true power reservoir of source energy lives, you want to spend as much time there somatically as you can. And when you can stop separating your head from your heart, or your brain from your body, you become fully integrated and able to utilize the infinite power that's available to you. To use a term that often is associated with reality transurfing, our heart has the power to know and find things in the alternative space. And the alternative space is something that our brain alone isn't privy to. The alternative space is an infinite void of information and possibilities. It contains everything that has happened and really everything that could possibly happen, past, present, or future. It holds all of those probabilities there. And your heart and feelings can connect in with that infinite void of possibility in ways that your thinking mind, just can't access. Your brain is this powerful computer that can deeply explore and contemplate variables in your physical reality, but it's that quieter voice inside, that taps into metaphysical realities. And it can sometimes be hard to explain, but that's why, a seemingly jumbled and nonsensical dream can provide impactful, interpretations that are more life-changing than any linear story or piece of information, because you're bringing through a message that's larger than linearity, and feeling your feelings sharpens your ability to pluck those possibilities from the alternative space, and building the spiritual muscles that come along with that is also going to help you discern whether you're experiencing a fleeting emotion right now, or is it actually a deep insight? Because our future is dependent on our choices, and so many of our choices are made emotionally, and we need to understand, was that an emotion that was giving me deep insight into the present moment, or was that an emotion that was coming up not to make a decision from, but to be transmuted back into creative potential? And when you're too steeped in your thinking mind, the monkey mind drowns out that inner voice, and it can be difficult to differentiate which emotions are ready for transmutation versus which ones are messages to us. And, when you're too focused in the monkey mind, that extinguishes your spiritual understanding, and it makes you more likely to live your life aimlessly, like I was in the camper, going in circles, always seeking for what's my purpose, but your heart exists as the voice without words, it's reflection without thought, it's sound without volume. And the understanding and knowledge gained are impactful, but that impact can remain elusive if we're unable to integrate some of those messages into our field and our system and our muscle memory. But we've all experienced some kind of knowing at some point in our lives. Maybe we're not consciously aware of it, but if we really sit with when was a time that I really knew something, something's going to rise to the surface. Maybe it was yesterday, maybe it was when you were a child, but there's been some time where we just had a knowingness about something. You may have had a feeling that someone was going to call or text you, and then moments later they do. Or perhaps you had a feeling of, what somebody was going to say before they said it, or you just had a deep gut feeling that you couldn't explain, but you knew that something was going to work out, and then it did work out, even though the practical thing would have been to be like, it's probably not going to work out. Once you attempt to explain away some of these more mystical moments with words, it really 100% starts to, fall short of grasping the magnitude of what actually happened. And in hearing yourself explain it out loud, your mind is really good at jumping to logical explanations of why, what happened was probably just a coincidence, but if you live in that state of just assuming that everything is random or a coincidence, you might second guess the impactful moments that show up to point you in the right direction. Or maybe like you start to second guess that internal wisdom, and so you don't even believe it anymore. And so because of that, it kind of just dies down to a whisper or something that you can't even hear. And this is why it's so important to get out of the thinking mind when you meditate. And you can do that by feeling your feelings, allow your thoughts to come and go as they please without needing to wholly identify with them, without having to analyze every single thought, by bringing those thoughts down into the body and experiencing them somatically. If you can take any part of this back to your meditation practice with the perspective that feeling sensations in your body is the work, your life will change in dramatic and interesting ways. I know it did for me. And, do it as an experiment. Try it and let us know how it goes in the comments so others are encouraged to give it a try as well. And as you use this process, please comment below on what's working, what still doesn't fully make sense. Like and subscribe and turn on the notifications so that we can tune the algorithm to get this process out to as many people as possible. And remember, I share tons of content on Twitter each day and host a weekly Q&A spaces there where you can ask any questions you have about spiritual alchemy, law of attraction, reality transurfing, or the teachings of Neville Goddard. And the intention of this channel is to really create a welcoming space for all of us to become powerful creators who are living our best lives. So I'm looking forward to creating more of that with you. I'm John Ray with Musing Wizard, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.